Ole Miss high school recruiting is going into the dead period, ready to shock the world. I'm back from vacation. Let's go.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports. Today on the show, we talk about Caleb Cunningham and him planning on attending Juice Fest at the end of July. According to David Johnson of Inside the Rebels, Elijah Melendez, a Miami commitment, names a top 4 after his official visit to Miami, and get ready for the Duce Knight recruitment to explode. We talk about Ole Miss landing the top defensive lineman in the state of Mississippi and Andrew Maddox, and Chris Beard and Ole Miss Hoops lands a top 25 star in Tylis Jordan to join Patton Peekins. All good things. This is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the LockOn Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is. July 2nd at 7 p.m., you can join us at Walk-Ons in Ridgeland, Mississippi for a meet and greet. I got to do my final call with the general manager of the restaurant this week. If he gives us the all clear, I'm going to call and confirm and let the sponsors like Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles know what is up. The point of that is it's close. It's about a week away, and there's still time to join the Grove Collective and help Ole Miss football be elite. You can go to thegrovecollective.com and join today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Interesting stuff. I'm back from my vacation, as you can see. And just to let everybody know, I am planning on broadcasting remotely from Mississippi. So we're doing tests this week. So one of my goals is one day this week is the show will be done remotely, as in not in the studio. It'll be like done on my back porch, just to prove that it can be done before I head off to Mississippi with that plan. It should be pretty interesting. I kind of proved today that it can be done. I do worry that my computer is enough to do it, but we'll see. We're going to keep testing it, and by the end of the week, I may end up having a new machine. Anyway, according to Inside the Rebels, David Johnson, he got a phone call from Caleb Cunningham, the wide receiver out of Choctaw County, number 13-ish player in the country, a 5-star, a true 5-star, a dominant player. He is going to be attending Juice Fest. Now, Caleb Cunningham is visiting all the schools in the Southeast because whenever you're a good player, you're going to be recruited heavily by several schools. That's okay. I think he's been to Florida. I think he's been to LSU. I think he's been to Auburn. And I think he's liked a good many of them. But he keeps coming back to Ole Miss, and that is good news. Now, whenever we talk about Duce Knight in a minute, everybody like Notre Dame fans like to jump into my comments like, well, he's visiting Notre Dame. Well, the same thing, Caleb Cunningham is visiting Ole Miss. And a couple of weeks ago, we did a video about how Ole Miss could land like 5 stars in this high school recruiting class. And high school recruiting for Ole Miss, I mean, coming off an 11-win season, getting ready for another, is not necessarily surprising. But Caleb Cunningham would be an elite member of the class. And if you want to look at those 5 stars, Caleb Cunningham was definitely one of them as the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. Another thing we need to talk about is Duce Knight's recruitment is about to explode. And I'm not just talking about Ole Miss and him being a Notre Dame commitment at the moment, but it is about to explode because apparently by most accounts out at the Elite 11, he was really, really good all week, and everybody saw that. So any attention that he had, there's going to be people trying to get the door cracked open. There's going to be people trying to get in on his recruiting. Lane Kiffin is probably going to up his offer, and every dynamic is going to change in the Duce Knight recruitment. But by all accounts, he had a really good Elite 11 weekend, and that is a name to keep an eye on. And the last name that I want to talk about today is Elijah Melendez. He's a Miami commitment that named a top 4. Yes, you heard that correctly. He's a Miami commitment that named a top 4 after a visit to Miami, which tells me that some of the other visits probably stood out more than the Miami one did, or the offer was a little bit better. Now, he's from Kissimmee, Florida. He's from right down the road, I think at Osceola High School, right across from Disney World, Mickey Mouse. He's a very physical football player. He's a top-notch linebacker, and Ole Miss, by all accounts, is going pretty hard after him. Now, the other schools on this list is Auburn and Oklahoma to join Miami and Ole Miss. That's probably his last 4. Now, Ole Miss, he had a really great visit, and he talked to everybody, kind of talked up Ole Miss and said, hey, they're at the top. We'll have to see how the Miami visit goes. And him not shutting down his recruitment and going ahead and committing to Miami is probably a good sign for Ole Miss football. So you have the linebacker that is a true thumper. You have the defensive lineman and Andrew Maddox. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. You have defensive backs that are popping in all the time. Keon Young from Lakeland, Florida, the Lakeland Dreadnoughts. He committed as well. You have all of these skill players, and you can see that Lane Kiffin is doing a really good job at high school recruiting this cycle. Now, Ole Miss is going to need 45 or 50 players next year, just because of the way this worked out with everybody transferring in and people coming back to school and all of that. Nearly half of the team, maybe over half of the team, is going to be leaving after this season. So that necessitates that the transfer portal has to be what it's always been. It's not going to go down. People are going to look at this high school class and think that, hey, there's been a paradigm shift in what's going on. That's not what's happening. There's just so many bodies that are needed. There's going to be obviously more numbers in the high school ranks that are going to have to be taken this year, or else you're going to be doing like a Colorado type thing going in the next season. And that's problematic at best. So you'll see a situation to where Ole Miss probably signs 20 to 25 high school players this year, but they're going to sign 20 to 25 transfer portal players as well because they need to. Going to be really interesting. And there's a lot of storylines going into 2025 that are going to be really interesting. But of course, we're about to get into the most anticipated football season maybe ever in Ole Miss football. I mean, people went to games in 1958, 59, 60, 61, and 62. That was the last era that's even synonymous with what's happening now. Ole Miss has 2 10-win seasons in the last 3 years. They're favored for a top 5 finish. This is not the golden years of Ole Miss football, but it might be like the silver years or the platinum years or something like that. Because if you go on Twitter, you can see the time. Ole Miss's roster, I'm telling you, it's Kathy Ireland. Kathy Ireland is Ole Miss roster in 2024. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it is what every kid in 1985, 1990 thought was unattainable. But it is. Here it is. This is what is happening. And we're going to probably see that at the meet and greet at Walk-Ons on Tuesday. The person that has the medals that were made up on Kathy Ireland and the Ole Miss roster 2024. So it should be pretty interesting indeed. But it should be a lot of fun what is going on. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. Andrew Maddox committing to Ole Miss deserves more fanfare, and part of that is my fault. I'll explain. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep these sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I am in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, it's an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that screaming and shouting? Make the switch over to LockOn Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. LockOn Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the LockOn Podcast Network. Your team every single day. About a week ago, Ole Miss got a commitment from Andrew Maddox. He's defensive lineman out of Oak Grove. Big guy. I was on vacation when he committed. I think I did a little short from Legoland. I think it was on Tuesday. Talked about that. So about a week ago. And because I was on vacation, because I was out, I did not give it the attention that it warranted. This is a big-time defensive lineman. When you look at his film, he is a very quick twitch guy that plays like a much smaller player. But then when you see how big he is, you really get impressed. He is somebody that is going to fight William Eccles and Cam Beavers and all those guys in the middle of the defense for Ole Miss football. He's going to compete with that defensive line class a year ago for playing time. And he is the brother of AJ Maddox, the quarterback, who is going to be probably the fourth string quarterback this season. And normally when you call somebody a fourth string quarterback, that can be a little bit of a negative. Not in this case. He's behind Jackson Dart, Austin Simmons, and Walker Howard. And there's nothing wrong with being there whenever you are a true freshman. So he's kind of where he was. And then whatever that spring game abomination was, AJ Maddox was calm, collected, and played pretty well. If there was anything that you wanted to take out of it, it was that AJ Maddox did not look out of place. He looked like just like everybody else playing ball. But his brother is Andrew Maddox, defensive lineman with the Oak Grove Warriors down beside Hattiesburg, Mississippi. If anybody's wondering where Oak Grove, Mississippi is, it's pretty much where the mall is in Hattiesburg, or was. I don't even know if was it Turtle Creek or something like that is still open, but it's over there. That's the area that Brett Favre coached in. That was the area of Hattiesburg that grew there after it grew in Petal. So it grew out like in certain areas as subdivision wings were starting to happen, and Oak Grove became one of them. And basically you have three main schools in Forest County that you need to pay attention to in Oak Grove, Petal, and Hattiesburg. Hattiesburg for the longest time had uniforms just like LSU. They've changed that up recently, the Hattiesburg Tigers, but you have the Petal Panthers, the Oak Grove Warriors, and the Hattiesburg Tigers. Well, Hattiesburg Tigers has a defensive lineman that everybody is being recruited. It looks like he might end up at Mississippi State, and good for him if he does. But the prize was over in Oak Grove in Andrew Maddox. And Andrew Maddox, like I said, is a brother of AJ. He also has a younger brother that looks like he's going to be a highly recruited guy. His dad apparently went to Delta State, has a relationship with Pete Golding. Really good football player, but this is just another example of Ole Miss getting the top defensive player in the state. This defense is going to get good on almost like, let's take worst case scenario that these players are slow coming along and all that. Think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? Jacksonville about every 4 years is good just because they get so many high draft picks. 1 year they have to be good. Now their front office isn't very good and all of that, but there's talent that raises up to a point that's almost like past the event horizon of what a good football team looks like. And Jacksonville hit that and have a playoff run, and then they'll go kind of sink back to the pack because they have a terrible front office. But on the defensive side of the ball, that's the worst case scenario for Ole Miss. With the defensive line talent that they have accumulated, they've accumulated Suntaran Perkins. They recruited Jacoby Hobson, Keon Young, lots of players on the back end of that defense. And if they get linebacker Elijah Melendez and stuff like that, Andrew Maddox, you can see how this Ole Miss defense has a chance to be really formidable for the foreseeable future. And it's because of getting players like Andrew Maddox. And I hate that I wasn't in the building a week ago so I could give this the attention that it deserved. I like this player. I like it a lot. I talked to Brian Smith about it. I don't know, about 2 months ago, talked to him about Andrew Maddox. And he really liked him. He was like, whoa, this guy is awesome. You look at him and all of this stuff happened. And he's like breaking down what type of defensive end he needed to be, or defensive tackle. Defensive end in a 3-4 is what he was talking about. But it's really interesting. And I'm curious to see how Pete Golding uses him. Because as we've talked about, Pete Golding coaches linebackers at Ole Miss. He is a linebackers coach. But for whatever reason, defensive linemen are kind of his babies. That's the way he's been his entire coaching career, whether he was at Delta State or Texas San Antonio or Alabama. There's always been defensive linemen that's been pretty good. And everybody's going to say, well, at Alabama, he's recruiting 5 stars. Of course, they're going to be good. Yeah, but I'm talking like UTSA. No matter where he is, the defense seems to be set up for the defensive lineman to eat. And he's recruiting guys that fit that, going front to back of his defense. He got players a year ago in the class with William Eccles and Kamarion Franklin, and those dudes got them up front, kind of took care of the front of that defense and started working backwards. And you look at what he's doing in the back end of the defense, like he picked up Jacoby Hobson. He's picked up Keon Young. They've picked up a 6'4" cornerback. I forget his name. I apologize for that. But there's length being added on the outside. That's the big obsession right now. So he is a really good player that is going to supplement all of that depth that has been recruiting on the front of the defensive line. Now, it's still going to be difficult to break into this defense because they are going to supplement that high school recruiting and who develops there with transfer portal acquisitions like Princely Amamiellan or Walter Nolan, bringing those guys in. And whenever you do that, all of a sudden you have a really superior defense that you have built in a relatively short period of time. I'm telling you, I really wish I could have given this the attention that it deserved because he is a really, really good football player. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. Chris Beard wanted to get in on the Cruton Act and, well, landed a top 25 player. Stick around. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV app in the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Be part of history. Really interesting stuff, and football is humming. That's like I talked about. This has a chance to be a magical December for Ole Miss football, both in the fact that what this 2024 football team can and honestly is expected to do. If you get to December and this season is just going to a bowl game, if you're heading to the Citrus Bowl, season's a failure. It just is. But if Ole Miss gets into the playoff, if Ole Miss gets to host a playoff game, let's say December 22nd, you're hosting Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, any one of those, hosting them in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. High school recruiting, signing day just ended. You signed Caleb Cunningham, Kylan Deere, Duce Knight, Jerome Miles, and Elijah Melendez, and several other prospects that are out there. this has been a magical year and a transformative year for Ole Miss football. It is. And a lot of that is the credit of the Grove Collective and what Walker Jones and him working with the head coaches have been able to do. Because very early on, they basically put Ole Miss on the cutting edge. They did some stuff that worked out. And because of that, they built the reputation of being one of the top collectives in the entire country, not the most wealthy, top collectives. And because of that, the reputation is starting to spill over to other sports. So much so, Chris Beard is getting in on the act right now. He got a commitment during the week from Tylis Jordan, a top 25 basketball commit from 2025. Really good, really powerful player. You had Jamin Breakville talking about, it's like, hey, when I'm done, I'm coming back to Ole Miss to watch this guy. He's potentially a one and done type player. He is a really good basketball player. He joins John Bowl, who was a McDonald's All-American, and Patton Pinkins is committed in that same class, who is Al Pinkins' son, who is coming in from Lubbock, Texas. Ole Miss has built a basketball roster that is at least envious to most everybody. And in this Southeastern Conference, which seems to be getting better and better and better, you have a situation to where Ole Miss is going to be able to get better with it. Now, it might be, and the way it looks at, I don't know how it is, it might be at the expense of baseball. It genuinely might be. It might be a situation where you can't turn baseball around for a while. But if basketball, who won 20 games a year ago, and of course, women's basketball is a burgeoning power in women's basketball if they can make another run into the tournament. Football is one of the top programs in the entire country. Right now, those three sports, they are kind of carrying Ole Miss as far as national perception. And then you have other stuff like national champions in track and field. The women's golf team and the men's golf team, they've won, if not consistently, recently. Now, softball has not really been that good. Baseball has not been that particularly good, but there's some very good things to be proud of in the athletic department. Now, there's going to be some people, and, you might know who you are, but you demand that every sport be good at all times. If you lose a game, that's a problem. Fire everybody. There's going to be groups of fans like myself that know exactly what waters Ole Miss is actually swimming into. The first one is like the utopian. Everybody's the same. Everybody has the same opportunity, the same wealth. If they can do it, you can do it. That's their mindset. Mine is Ole Miss does not have the resources of a Texas or a Texas A&M, which means the days of being able to be good at all sports, they are pretty much gone, especially in this NIL era and all of this that is about to happen in college athletics. You need to be good at a certain few sports. And part of those sports, it has to be football. Football has to be the best sport on your campus. It pays all the bills. It has to act like it. Basketball, that is a revenue sport. You need to be good at men's basketball. You need to be good at women's basketball because of perception and the way it looks. You need to be good at a women's sports that is highly visible. That would be women's basketball. And everything else after that is kind of gravy. So if you can be good at football, basketball, and women's basketball, perceptionally, you are going to look really good around the rest of the country. And right now, Ole Miss is really good in those sports. You got a 20-win team in men's basketball, over 21 team consistently in women's basketball, and football won 11 games a year ago and is predicted to be in the top 5. Really interesting stuff. Now, the way this is going to work, I talked about this earlier. I am trying to do it to where I can do remote shows from Mississippi. I'm not going to be able to do a show at Walk-Ons. They don't have the space for it. We don't need to do all the equipment and all of that. We're just doing an informal meet and greet on Tuesday night and having a good time and eating some red beans and rice and drinking some beer. That is what we will be doing that night. But me coming to Mississippi, I do want a situation that's different than last week. Now, last week, we had a pretty good week, honestly. Had over 1,000 views for every YouTube video. I mean, the Locked On Loon community really came through a week ago. But I want to do something. This is the most anticipated football season that I can remember in my lifetime. And if you're below the age of 60, probably what you remember in your lifetime as well. So we will see how it goes. I'm hoping to do remote shows from Vicksburg. My hotel room is set up in Vicksburg. I'll be visiting my mom for her birthday, but I'm going to try and do a show every day and keep current and stuff like that. That is really my goal, is just to have a little bit of a current show as well. Last week, I did like to rank and talk about the games that is going to be happening, but I did want a little bit of current events to be added as well. So I hope everybody has a good time. I will see everybody on Tuesday night, and it should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how it goes. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. We have the most perspectives surrounding Ole Miss sports, and it's one of the many reasons why we are the number one Ole Miss podcast out there, and thank you for that. But for your second listen, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And for those of you on YouTube, we will send you there right now. Howdy toddy, everyone.